Hello, Jackie here, and we are going to be doing our final class card review from the Knights of the Frozen Throne expansion. I'll be going on and making a few videos on the neutral cards as well, but we're on the last class, and the class is Warrior, and let's get straight into it. So, Warrior's got quite a lot of cool cards. I think Warrior's got some good cards, that's for sure. But yeah, we'll start with Scourgelord Garrosh. It's 8 mana, hero card that gives you 5 armor. Has a battle cry, equip a 4/3 Shadowmourne that also damages adjacent minions. So this weapon, this Shadowmourne weapon, has the potential to do like 36 damage. You do attack one thing for 4, and then it does 4 to either side as well. So that's 12 damage, just 12 damage potentially just from one swing. And you can also swing it 3 times. So that is potentially 36 damage on the minions through this weapon. So this weapon is really strong. And your hero power changes to a whirlwind effect. So your hero power changes to 2 mana, deal 1 damage to all minions. Which is really good, having an AoE effect in as your hero power, like every single turn, is pretty damn good. So the thing about this card is that I don't feel like it's going to be that good in Control Warrior, even though like having an AoE every single turn would be nice. Giving up your armor is a big deal. Like being able to armor every turn is such a big deal in a lot of matchups, and I don't feel like you can afford to give that up. So I feel like this is going to be better in a kind of maybe tempo warrior deck where you're playing lots of mid-rangey minions that have good synergy with whirlwind effects, things like Armor Smith, Acolyte, Frothing Berserker, Bloodhoof Brave, other enraged minions. And yeah, the weapon can help you kind of clear out the board to develop your own board yourself. And the whirlwind effect is obviously good for clearing your opponent's board and interacting with your minions if you're playing enraged minions. Maybe even playing Gurubashi Berserker, who knows. But yeah, I really like this hero card. I would kind of like it to be a thing in Control Warrior, but I don't think you can afford to give up your armor. I really don't. Yeah, I think if this does see any play, I think it's much more likely to see play in like a tempo type warrior than Control for sure. Okay. Next card. 2 mana, spell, Bring It On, gain 10 armor, reduce the cost of minions in your opponent's hand by 2. So obviously for 2 mana, gaining 10 armor is really good. But reducing the cost of minions in your opponent's hand by 2 is generally really bad. So it's going to be especially bad if your opponent is playing kind of combo type minions. So if your opponent is playing things like Malygos, for example, then you really don't want Malygos to be cheaper. Or if your opponent is just playing a lot of minions, this is going to be pretty bad because they can just play lots of minions. However, in a Control Warrior deck, a lot of the time you're not worried about your opponent playing a lot of minions. Like a lot of the time you actually want your opponent to overextend, so that you can just get a really big brawl, or like a Ravaging Ghoul Sleep with the Fishes, or something like that. But you kind of want them to overextend into your AoE. So this card, because it's making your opponent's minions cheaper, it can tempt them into overextending into AoE, and then you can punish them. So obviously they're going to be aware of that, and they're going to be aware that, oh, he could have Brawl next turn or whatever, I need to play around it and hang stuff back. But then they're not kind of making the most of the tempo advantage this card is even giving them. So I wouldn't write this card out completely, even though the downside of this card is pretty huge. I wouldn't write this out completely. Maybe you could play this in a deck with Dead Man's Hand. Another new warrior spell. 2 mana, shuffle a copy of your hand into your deck. So this card is pretty insane. Basically means that you can just never run out of cards, because if you use Dead Man's Hand while you have your other Dead Man's Hand in your hand, then you literally just can keep using Dead Man's Hand and putting it back in your hand and shuffling your hand into your deck over and over again. which is really crazy. So if you are playing Dead Man's Hand, you're probably going to be want to playing a lot of card draw, like a lot of card draw, to kind of make the most of this so that you can find them both and then shuffle stuff and not run out of stuff. And you can just have removal forever. Like, you can just keep removing stuff. You can, like, put more Brawls in your decks, put more Executes in your deck to deal with the Jades, that type of thing. So this card is really crazy. You do it with, like, Arcane Giants. You get it to 0 mana, and then you put more Arcane Giants in your deck and play them, and then you just draw them, play them again, put them in your deck again, and, like, it's just... You can just get endless stuff. So this card is really exciting. This card is really exciting. It's obviously very slow. But I really like... my favorite thing about this card is that it can allow you to not worry about how much card draw you have in Control Warrior. You don't have to be like, oh, but I might just die in fatigue to other control decks. You can literally just be like, oh, I can run as much card draw as I like. All I'm going to do is literally just keep removing stuff and keep drawing and then putting it all back in my deck again. And then you don't even need to run many threats. You can play like Arcane Giants, you can play Elise, you can put Elise back in your deck a load of times, you can put Arcane Giants back in your deck a load of times. Like, this card is great. This card is great. Okay. Next card is Rotface, the Warrior Legendary. It's an 8 mana 4/6. Whenever this minion survives damage, summon a random legendary minion. So, unfortunately, it's survives and not takes. So if your opponent kills this minion, you're not actually getting a legendary from it. But this card seems good to me. Only if you're running a significant amount of activators for it, though. Like, you're going to want to be playing lots of ways of proccing this. Things like maybe Whirlwind or Blood to Ichor, maybe even Inner Rage. Because legendary minions, like, the scale of things you can get is crazy. You can get a 1/1 Shifter Zerus, or you can get a Tyrion or a Ysera or something bonkers. So I think this card will definitely see play somewhere. I think more likely in a more tempo-y style warrior deck than control, because tempo warrior is going to have more ways of proccing this effect, and it's going to be easier to get legendary minions out of it. So yeah, I think this card is good. And another reason this card could be good is because you can use it really nicely with Blood Razor. 4 mana 2/2 weapon, Battlecry and Death Rattle deal 1 damage to all minions. So this is one of the best cards in the set, in my opinion. You can kind of think of it as 2 mini swipes. So you do 3 damage to one thing and 1 damage to everything else, and then you do 3 damage to one thing again and 1 thing to everything else again. So it's kind of like 2 mini swipes. Obviously, deal 1 damage to all minions is insane in Warrior. You can hold the second charge of this to use with something like Rotface. So you play your Rotface and then you just attack with your second charge of Blood Razor and proc this and get a legendary minion, like that type of thing. Yeah, I think Blood Razor is actually like crazy. This is one of the best cards in the set without a doubt. It's great. But yeah, Rotface, maybe some play in tempo way. Valkyrie, Soulclaimer. 3 mana 1/4 minion. Whenever this minion survives damage, summon a 2/2 ghoul. Well, like when I first looked at this card, it was kind of the same as Rotface. I was like, oh, this is really good. But then once again I realized it's survives damage, not takes damage, and the difference is big. Are you gonna play this in Tempo Warrior? I think you can play this in Tempo Warrior, like with things like Inner Rage, Whirlwinds. You might be playing Animated Berserker, new 1 mana 1/3. After you play a minion, deal 1 damage to it. This is obviously like a 1 mana 1/3 on its own is not that good, but the fact you can use it to activate. Use it on Acolyte, use it on Valkyrie Soulclaimer, use it on Rotface, use it on a variety of enraged type minions. It's really good. Like a kind of Tempo Warrior has got some good new tools. Blood Razor is insane for Tempo Warrior. Animated Berserker is pretty good for Tempo Warrior. This could have potential for Tempo Warrior. Same with Rotface. So maybe some kind, and same with the Death Knight. This is potentially a Tempo Warrior card. Like rather than control, more tempo-y. So. Yeah, I like that Warrior hasn't got any more cards that will help Pirate Warrior. That's something I'll be happy about. But But yeah, in Tempo Warrior, yeah, I think you can play this for sure. I think you can play this. Other than Tempo Warrior, like, you're not going to play this in Control Warrior. You're not going to play this in Pirate Warrior. So it's only kind of enragey style warriors you're going to play this in. Same with Valkyrie Soulclaimer. Like some kind of tempo-y enragey warrior. Seems good. Okay. Mountain Fire Armor. 3 mana 4/3. Death Rattle. If it's your opponent's turn, gain 6 armor. So this was the first card they revealed that had the Death Rattle effect that only triggers on your opponent's turn. And I think this card is very good. Obviously it's a Death Rattle, so you could maybe play it in N'Zoth Warrior if you want. And the fact that it's got low attack and low health and high attack. So it is a minion that your opponent is going to usually want to easily just kill off. But they don't want you to get 6 armor, so they're often going to have to ignore this. And then you get to trade this into whatever you like. You can trade this into their Frothing Berserker or whatever. Like if they say you're against Pirate Warrior and they coin Frothing Berserker, and then you play your Mountain Fire Armor into their Frothing Berserker, your 4/3 obviously challenges their 2/4 really well. But then normally what they would do against the 4/3 minion is play something like a Quick Fiery Aurochs or something like that and kill off your minion and then push damage to face with the Frothing. Whereas now if they do that, you're getting 6 armor, which is really good. But then if they don't kill it, you get to make this really nice trade with your 4/3 into their Frothing Berserker. So it's kind of a lose-lose situation for them and a win-win situation for you. So this card is very nice. Like, I think in some kind of... in N'Zoth Warrior, I think you're just definitely going to play this card. If you're playing some kind of N'Zoth Warrior, I think you're just definitely going to play this card. I think it fits Control Warrior more than it fits any other style of Warrior. This card kind of makes me happy, man. It's like... it's not, like, crazy, but it's going to be very annoying for your opponent in quite a few situations. Yeah, I like it, man. I like it. Okay, spoke about one of the best cards in the set. Death Revenant. 5 mana 3/3. Battle Cry, gain +1/+1 for each damaged minion. So this is your minions and your opponent's minions. So obviously when your hero power is deal 1 damage to all minions, it's going to be a lot easier to have a lot of damaged minions. But it feels like it's going to be very rare for this to be very good on 5. Even if there were 3 damaged minions on the board, this is still only a 5 mana 6/6. So it just feels too clunky to me. There's things you can do in the late game, like if your opponent's like Token Shaman, they've built up a big board, you use Whirlwind, and then like play this, and then use like Sleep with the Fishes, and Sleep with the Fishes like clears their board, but then you've got this buffed from all the damaged minions. Like say they had 6 minions, this suddenly becomes a 9/9, 5 and a 9/9. Yeah, that's good, but it's way too... That is not going to happen very often at all. This feels a bit too clunky, and probably not good enough to see competitive play in Constructed anyway. Yeah. Forge of Souls. 2 mana, draw 2 weapons from your deck. So obviously 2 mana, draw 2 cards is a good card. And if you have a few weapons in your deck, then this is basically just draw 2 mana, draw 2 cards. So I think this is good. Like, you're not going to play this in Pirate Warrior because in Pirate Warrior you can't afford to spend 2 mana to effectively do nothing really. You need... Pirate Warrior is always about getting ahead and staying a bit ahead, not drawing, not getting value, just getting tempo on board and through your weapon. This is going to be better in like slower warrior decks. Like maybe you would play Forge of Souls in a deck where you're also playing Dead Man's Hand and you're constantly shuffling things into your deck, so you can just constantly shuffle more weapons into your deck. You can have 2 Fire Aurochs, 2 Blood Razors. In a control deck, you might be playing Gore Howl as well, or maybe even Fool's Bane. Fool's Bane is a card that really hasn't seen much play, but it's really not bad. I mean, you could even play like Fatigue. You can play Fatigue Warrior, and you can play like the Violet Illusionist that makes you not take damage on your turn. You can play Cold Light Oracles. You can, and in that kind of deck, you can play Fool's Bane because you play your Violet Illusionist with your Fool's Bane and just don't take any damage. So I'm kind of actually looking forward to that kind of. I've never really liked Control Warrior, but I'm actually kind of looking forward to that type of warrior. So yeah, this is a decent card. You obviously need to be playing enough weapons in your deck for it. If the only weapons in your deck are 5 Warx, this is not worth playing. Like that's for sure. That's for sure. But Warrior has some nice cards. And some cards that are kind of could maybe push a more mid-rangey tempo Warrior instead of the kind of thing that we see at the moment with Warrior, where it's either Pirates or it's Quest is generally how it is right now. Like there's been a few other slight things, but mainly it's been dominated by Pirates and Quest Warrior. So yeah, definitely excited to try some tempo Warrior or something like that. Yeah, exciting stuff, man. All right, well, yeah, I can't wait to play these cards, and I will be very soon working on my neutral card review videos, so they should be up later today. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys, and catch you later.